Now that you have your drawing, you're ready to dimension. To follow the process of dimensioning, you need to create the complete multi-view drawing, which we already have. Now we need to count the number of features. In the top view, we have the 4 small cylinders with the hollow shell on the inside. We also have the cylinder that has the hollow shell inside on the bottom. We also have the small 8 little webs on the inside bottom. And we also have the overall shell itself. So we have 4 features. We need to select the best view to represent each feature. When looking at the cylinders on the top, we don't want to dimension the diameter of the cylinder in one of the side views or the bottom. We're going to dimension the top. For that feature, we need to dimension its size and location along with all the other features. To complete the diameter for the 4 top cylinders and the outside diameter, select the dimension, pull down, select diameter. Simply select the outside circle and drag the dimension out. Select escape to complete the dimension if there's no more to dimension. We do not have to do each and every one, however, we do need to modify this dimension. If we double click on this dimension, on the outside of the carets, you can see the cursor flashing. We'll type in caps, TYP, stating typical, that this diameter is typical for each of the outside diameters also on the top surface. Select close. For these particular circles, I also need to change the diameter precision. The diameter is 0.375 or 3/4/8 of an inch in fraction form. In its decimal form, we only have 2 decimal places, and we want to change it to its true precision of 3. By double clicking, we can come up to our dimension edit and change the primary precision to 3 decimal places. This is the accuracy of our diameter for each of those 4 circles. Select close. I now have part of my first feature dimensioned. I'm going to dimension the inside circle in this area up here instead of down here, making it a little cluttered. Simply go up to the dimension pull down, select diameter dimension, select the inside circle, left click to drop, escape to get out of the command. I want to include also the TYP in this dimension. Double click after the caret, in all caps, TYP. Select close. I almost have my first feature fully dimensioned. I also need to dimension the height. I'm going to move to one of my side views and determine which view is going to be the best to dimension the height. These views here, both sections, I'm going to be focusing on a lot of the inside to dimension. I'm going to spread the dimensions out and use this portion right here to represent the height. Simply go up to the dimension drop down, select linear dimension. Make sure in this case that you do not select your small, tiny little filleted edges, but the very top and the next bottom section to represent the full height. Left click to drop the dimension. Escape to end that dimension. In this case, I know that my dimension is not 0.19, but 0.1875, 3/16 of an inch. I'm going to simply double click on the 0.19 and change my primary precision to 4 decimal places. Select close. I can also move my dimension by single left clicking and dragging the grip around to a new position. You can also do the same thing with the end of the arrowhead grips. We do not want the dimension to look too cluttered within the arrowheads, and we do not want to represent it in a manner that it's going to be on top of the object. This is a properly represented dimension. I now have my first feature fully dimensioned in regards to its size. 0.375 diameter outside, 0.25 inside, and 0.1875 in height. I now need to dimension the position of my feature. When dimensioning circles, you need to represent the center of each of the circles, whether it be one of these small cylinders or a hole or an arc or radii. Select the center mark in the geometry toolbar. Left click on the outside circle. If you left click on the inside circle, our center lines are not giving us enough to represent. It may seem just a little short, but it is important. We'll select the outside of the last two. Select Escape, left click, and delete, and restart to complete our center lines. Going up to dimension, select linear. We are going to dimension from the center line to the very outside of our object, and bring our dimension out. We also want to select the outside and to the middle and bring our dimension up. We don't want to put our dimensions too close to our diameters to make it look cluttered. This is also the best view. We do not want to measure to the center of these and over. This is the best representation of the position of our feature. We also want to check to make sure that our precision is accurate. Left click, and we'll change for the time being our precision to 4 decimal places. And you can see it does change. If we change to 5, you can see there's a 0 at the end. In this manner, to be accurate with our precision, we're going to stay with 4 decimal places. Double click, change to 4 decimal places. If our dimension line crosses our dimension, we do have to move it out of the way. In this manner, we'll single left click on the grip, and bring it over to the right. We're also going to move our dimension out just a little bit to make it more well represented. I now have my first feature fully defined by its size and location. I'm going to move on to the bottom circles and first start with my center mark and select the outside circle. I'm going to dimension the position of it, as that's going to probably be the most cramped area if I were to find one between here or down here. I'm going to try the top first. Select linear dimension, left click, and make sure you do not hit any part of your fillet except the very outside of your object. And this might be a little cramped. We'll see, maybe we have to move it. I'm also going to select the up and down by selecting dimension, linear dimension, left click, and drag out my dimension. I'm going to select escape, and I'm going to double click on my dimension and make sure that the precision is accurate. I'm going to change this to 3 decimal places as I do not need that 0. I'm going to double click on the other 0.63, change it to 3 decimal places, select close. I am going to move this dimension out by single click and click hold on the left grip with our mouse button and drag it out. And it looks a little less cluttered. I'm going to have to dimension down here on either side the diameter of each of our circles. Underneath dimension, select diameter dimension, select the inside or outside circle. In this case, I'll select the inside and drag it out. I'll also select the outside. I'll drag it out over here. Select escape, double click on my dimension, and check the precision. I'm going to stay with 2. Close. Double click. Check the precision. I'm going to stay with 3. I'm almost complete dimensioning the size and position of my bottom cylinder. I do need to dimension the depth or the height of it, whichever way you look at it. I do not want to dimension to hidden lines, so I cannot use this view. I do, however, have section VB to be able to dimension the inside distance. Select dimension, select linear dimension, select the inside, and drop your dimension. I'm going to select escape. If it improves communication, you can keep the dimension on the inside of the recess. If you feel like it's too cluttered, we can move it out into the open to be able to dimension that depth. I'm going to double click on the 0.61 and check its precision. 4 decimal places. It looks like we can stay with 3 decimal places. Left click. And now our second feature is fully dimensioned. Now on my way to dimension the third feature, which are the webs. The webs are in various locations on my multi-view drawing. They're here, these have been sectioned. These are hidden lines, and I definitely don't want to dimension those. There are also hidden lines up here, and that's also a no-no to dimension those. Although they're very tiny, they're still representing as being underneath the top surface, so still considered hidden lines. On the bottom, however, they are in full view, and I could dimension their size and location within this area. However, being that we have a detail section view line here and various other dimensions, it could seem cluttered if I start dimensioning 3 more dimensions down here. Since we do have the detail section, we can move up here and dimension the webs here. If I select linear dimension and I select one of the webs and its size and drag it out, although the detail of our C is a scale of 3 to 1 and it says 0.04, and this seems smaller, if I dimension this small one just to show you, it still says 0.04. So this is where having a detail section is very nice to be able to dimension at a larger scale with these small components. I'm going to keep the 0.04, and I'm also going to double click and change precision to 3 decimal places. I'm also going to dimension the size of it in regards to its width by selecting dimension, linear dimension, zooming very, very close, and clicking on our lines. I'm going to also change this one to 3 decimal places. Double click, 3 decimal places. I could even check 4 to see for its accuracy. I also need to now dimension the position. I'm going to select the linear dimension and select the inside to the outside. And once again, without hitting any part of the fillet, I'm going to drag out. I'm going to share these arrowheads and readjust the 0.044. Double click and change to 4 decimal places. In this case, 3. I'm going to move my 0.044, click hold, and drag down. I'm almost complete with dimensioning the third and final feature of my Lego. The last thing I need to do for my third feature, my web, is dimension the height. In the first front view here, I can't dimension to hidden lines once again. In my section AA or section BB would be the best fit to dimension the webs. I'm going to use section AA to dimension the webs. I'm going to simply click Dimension and Linear Dimension and select the height of one of my webs. I'm going to check the precision by double-clicking and changing to 4 decimal places, and it looks like I only need 3. I'm now complete with dimensioning my web's size and location. The last feature is the overall piece and its shell. I can't assume that all the wall thicknesses are the same, so we need to dimension the wall thicknesses of our piece. If I select dimension, select linear, I can dimension our wall thickness on this sectional view here. I can also dimension the wall thickness of the top surface. I'm going to select Escape and double click and put our precision to 4. I'm going to move these dimensions around to make them more presentable. When dimensioning wall thickness, please take into consideration to not over-dimension, which is one of our guidelines. If I were to dimension the wall thickness of the cylinder bottom, we do not need this as we already have the inside diameter down here. So we can eliminate this dimension. I also do not want to dimension the wall thickness for the same reason here. Between this area and this area, it's already dimensioned by taking the diameter of the outside and the diameter of the inside and taking the difference. So this dimension is also not necessary. I now need to complete to dimension the overall width, length, and thickness of the object. Since I have the 0.1875 here and the 0.688 here and the thickness of the shell here, I do not need the overall height of the object. I do, however, need the width and length of the object, and I can pick one of the views in the section view to create one of my dimensions. This is representing off of the front view of our object. This is also representing the front view of our object. What I would have to do is dimension up here, because this is a removed section, and looking at the right side, I would have to dimension not the right side or the left side, but the top or bottom. For those of you that are doing Legos that have more of the top cylinders, it would be wise to measure the top here or the bottom here. Typically, we want to keep all our dimensions between the views. Within our area, we can see it's getting quite crowded in this area, so we will dimension our top area of our top view. I've now completed dimensioning my drawing in regards to the overall thickness and the shells and the width and the length. To finalize our drawing, we need to include a few line types. We have all our hidden lines included that are necessary. We have most of our center marks representing the center of our circles. We, however, need to represent all of our circles with center marks. Select center mark and go through all of these circles that do not have center marks with a simple left click. We also need to identify in specific views which cylinders are in fact in need of center lines. In our first one, next to center mark, we select center line, and we select between the lines to represent a circle. Unfortunately, with the size of our drawing, the center lines do not have the dash in front as represented in the icon. If we left click on our center line, we can drag the arrows. Unfortunately, to be consistent with this process, we can't always be accurate with our center mark. Once we get close and we have other views that are lined up, we can use this center line as a reference by simply selecting center line, select between the line types, selecting escape, click drag on the arrow, and we can track off of our previous center line and it'll become the same height. Click, hold, drag, snap. We can continue this process from left to right in this case. Center line, escape, left click, hold, and drag. Let go, left click, hold, drag, and let go. Escape. One of the last things I need to do to dimension my drawing completely is identify the fillets and rounds. The fillets and rounds are all the very tiny little broken corners where they come into a rounded section. The inside corners are called fillets. The outside corners are called rounds. Within this area, I'm going to put a general note. If I went up to the dimension and dimensioned the radius, since they're not full circles, it would be quite overwhelming about the whole drawing. So if I put a general note stating that all fillets and rounds have a radius of 0.01 is sufficient to complete the product. Click the text box, click, click. And close. Before you complete your title block, go around and make sure things aren't too cluttered. If there's things that you feel are too close together or represent a different view, simply click and drag text and dimensions closer or away from each other. Once you feel like you've completely satisfied all of the dimensioning techniques and the guidelines, your drawing is complete.